Hi, this is your host, Laura Powers, and I'm so pleased today to have Anita East on the show. She is a best-selling author, a cosmetic nurse and practitioner, and we're here to talk about her book, Beautiful, Unique Faces. Thanks so much for being a guest on the show.
Oh, thank you so much, Laura. It's so thrilling to be here. It's awesome. I'm really happy.
Me too. We've had some connection challenges with internet down and various things, and we're finally
Uh,
connected, and
I
I'm really
know.
excited.
I know. And it's the universe has a way of making things happen at the right time. And this is the right
Absolutely.
time.
Absolutely. I feel the same. I always trust that it's for whatever reason, it's for the best. So I feel that as well.
Absolutely.
And I
Yes.
do, speaking of time, I do feel that your book is very timely right
Mm,
now. So
mm.
can you share a little bit about your book and what it's about?
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, my book, Beautiful Unique Faces, is a message to all girls and all women about how to find what's most beautiful and unique about their face. Because we're in a kind of time at the moment where we're looking everywhere but inside of ourselves to find out what's going to make us happy and therefore beautiful. And so my book is, I'm a cosmetic nurse practitioner, as you said. So I've treated over 18,000 women in my career, and we're all the same. None of us are any different. And we all want to know what the secret is to making us most beautiful. And unbeknownst to everyone, it's not everyone getting the same lips. It's not everyone getting the exact same cheeks, the same chin, the same jawline, which seems to very much be what's happening today. And it's all thanks to us looking outside of ourselves, looking at social media, looking at the media, looking at our friends, and being influenced by things that aren't necessarily good and right for us.
Yeah, it's such an important thing. And you talk in your book about something that I'd like to address, which is pretty ugly faces. And I thought that was a
Mm,
very interesting term, which is
mm,
the term for people who look like they've had work done. They, have these kind of frozen faces, maybe kind of puffy, no wrinkles, but like there's not a
absolutely.
lot of expression. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes in the search for beauty that
Mm.
it's lost. And
Absolutely, absolutely. It is lost, and we're so reliant on, we like to be led. The human race likes to be led, and we like to look at people who are 1 to 2 steps ahead of us and say, well, what are they doing? And if they're doing it, then I'm going to follow suit. It's our natural protective human mechanism. And if we're following someone on Instagram or social media and they're doing something, well, we do it too. And we think that that's the best thing to do. So what's happened is that we've started choosing facial features like we're choosing ingredients for our smoothie. So we're saying, I want that nose, I want that chin, those cheeks, that completely frozen and expressionless face, like you're putting pieces together on a jigsaw. But what happens is you lose what's, like you said, what's most beautiful about you. You lose the subtle nuances that make you attractive. I mean, think of it this way. If you've got a beautiful painting on the wall, and the garden, the artist has made it so that the garden is the main feature. And that's what draws your eye. You look at that and you go, gosh, look at that. Look at those flowers. Look at that tree. That garden is amazing. And then you go, oh yeah, there's a house there. And oh, I can see now when I'm looking, there's 2 children playing. But if someone else comes along and then makes the house stand out as much as the garden, it's like you look at that and you go, whoa, where do I look? There's too
mm,
much going on. It's no longer, there's no longer push and pull of a story. It's just, it's like this
mhm.
big, loud kind of thing. And that's what's happening with the idea of pretty ugly faces. So people are, because they're picking these, these features, these cheeks, these lips, these everything that has to be this perfect version of that facial feature, they actually become so pretty that they become ugly, and they
Yeah,
become
or or
pretty
it,
ugly faces.
or just at least not memorable or not something, because it's fascinating. I watched something that was, it was really interesting. They looked at um people's faces, and generally speaking, people aren't completely symmetrical. Like
Not at all.
we do like general symmetry. Like if someone has a very crooked face, like we don't tend to consider that attractive. But they did this feature where they put like a mirror, and like they did like if both sides of the face were the same, you know,
they
one
look
side
completely
versus the
different.
other, and they look completely different. And a lot of times they don't look as pretty. So
no, they don't. They don't. And
you know, really famous stars like Ingrid Bergman, or, you know, people that were considered incredibly classically beautiful, but a little bit of asymmetry and something that made them very unique actually made them stand out.
Absolutely. See, that's their little nuances, their little personality traits. And we have our unique facial feature from birth. We're born with it, and we have it until the day we die. So if you go messing around with what nature's, you know, given you, then you lose that unique facial feature, and suddenly all of your facial features become unique, and they're no longer attractive, because you can only have one unique facial feature. More than that, and you've got a face full of lead actors rather than one lead actor and the rest supporting actors.
Yeah, and of course I want to stress that, you know, I think so much of our beauty is internal, and it comes from within. And I think some of what happens when people are striving for this quote external beauty, and it's not allowing that inner beauty to come out. And this is where I see with too much Botox. And, you know, everyone should decide for themselves. I don't judge anyone, but I've decided for myself that I just don't feel that Botox is right for me. I don't like the idea of how it works. But regardless of whether you want to use it for yourself, you know, that kind of frozen look, it's like, I feel like when that happens, you might not have as many creases or lines, but you're also not letting your personality, your emotion, how you feel, which is so strong, come through. And that's really, really important.
It is really important. And that's a really great point, Laura, because when you remove your ability to express emotion, you also remove your ability to connect with those around you, which ultimately leads to an inability to connect with yourself. So throughout my book, I talk about different case studies, different women. So essentially it's a nonfiction book, but there's a lot of storytelling in it. My background is I'm an actor, TV presenter. I'm a storyteller, as well as the medical side of what I do. I've always acted and done storytelling. So it's really important that people connect to the women in my book via storytelling, because that's what I do. So I'm kind of giving people a glimpse into what I do in my treatment room, and that is essentially giving stories. Which is why I talk about, you know, your unique facial feature being your lead actor. But you're exactly right. When we take away our ability to smile, because we remove all of our crow's feet with Botox, then we no longer can show to those around us that we're warm and that we're sensitive and that we're happy. When we remove our ability completely to frown or express signs of worry, then those around us kind of go, well, I don't know, that they're saying that they're sad, but they're not looking like they're sad. And so there's this disconnect, and people stop being able to trust you, because they say, hang on a minute, you're telling me you're sad. You're telling me a sad story, but you're not showing, you don't look like you're sad. And it really does affect. I talk about a woman in my book at the very start, a woman called Justine, and she's a lady that I came across at the very start of my career in cosmetic medicine. And she basically came to me, having had this done for many, many years, and said, I want all of my facial movement gone, because I don't want my husband and my children to know how desperately unhappy I am, unquote.
Oh my gosh, that is
absolutely
so sad.
It is so sad. And it can only last for so long, because you cannot put a Band-Aid over a knife wound and expect it to keep that knife wound neatly closed. We are human beings. We are messy. We are beautiful. We are full of all sorts of stuff. So if you try and control, and you can to an extent, if you control what's on the outside, you can show, you're putting on a proverbial mask. You can show the external world a version of you that you think is best for the world to see, but it ain't good for you. It's not good for you internally. And that's what I discuss in my book. I talk about how, you know what, this is not an either or. I mean, I've got a hugely successful practice in Australia. Why on earth would I write a book telling people not to have treatment done? That's absurd. It's like saying to people, you're not allowed to drink coffee, you're not allowed to use your iPhone, never go on Instagram again. This is 2020. We have to accept that it's here and it's here to stay. So why don't we work out how it can be done well, rather than going down the rabbit hole of losing connection with ourselves and those around us by completely freezing, completely changing everything about us and seeking this idea that perfection leads to happiness. And I can tell you it sure as hell doesn't.
Oh, no. I mean, it's just this idea that, and I see this with all kinds of manifesting things that, yes, I think it's great to manifest and set intentions, but so much of our internal state has to do with our internal state and not what's coming in from the outside. Past a certain level of, having your needs taken care of and, certain wants and desires. But I think it's so important to find that peace within ourselves. And also, you brought up with so many treatments and kind of this freezing your expression. I feel like there's such a profound aspect of that with how we feel, because if you put your, brow down, like in a frowny kind of grumpy face, like if I do that, I start to feel grumpy. Like there's literally, there is a psychological, I think physiological thing that happens. And the same thing with smile. If you smile, you start to feel more upbeat. But if you literally can't do those things, like if your body is not able to do those things, there is an impact on how you feel and what you're able to feel. And
it's amazing.
Yeah, we need to be able to feel grumpy if something's made, could just like purge it out. And we also need to be happy and smile.
There's two amazing things that you've touched on by that. You brought up, that's a beautiful point. The first thing is that if someone else is showing us real true emotion and they're really upset and we're empathizing with them, but we can't mirror back to them the emotions. So someone's just lost someone really important in their lives. Something horrific has just happened to them. And then we're looking deadpan, nothing. We are completely frozen. So I call them facial emotion muscles, so FEMs. And if they're completely frozen, then we are not mirroring that person in front of us. We actually come across as being cold and aloof. And that does not nurture deep, warm, meaningful relationships. So that's the first thing. Not only that can people not connect with us, but we can't connect with other people because of that. So, and the other thing is as well, when you said that you need to be able to smile to feel good. Behavior breeds behavior. And if we can, I did an incredible interview the other day with Emma Dunwoody, who talks about human design, and she was saying when she was in her darkest period, she stopped smiling, and because of that, she was getting more and more and more depressed. Now, she read my book just recently, and even though this episode that she refers to happened 10, 13 years ago, I think she said, she read my book and she said, because I teach the reader how to find their unique facial feature, I show them exactly the tips and tricks that I do in my treatment room. I teach the reader how to do that. Because she found out by reading my book that her unique facial feature was her smile, she clicked and she went, that's why during that really depressive state, I stopped smiling. I completely stopped smiling. And now I've found that if I just smile, suddenly those around me smile back, I feel happier. And it's this kind of amazing technique that in acting, and you do acting, don't you?
Yes. I made my living as an actress for a while, and now I do it just here and there. But yeah.
Yes. So there's a woman called Susanna Block, and when I was doing my thesis at drama school in the UK, I studied performance anxiety in actors and performers. And there's this woman called Susanna Block, Bloch, and she talks about getting yourself via breathing into a state of emotion, which is an incredibly powerful thing for actors to learn to do. So if you want to get into a state of sadness, then you do a particular type of breathing. If you want to get yourself into a state of happiness, you do oh my gosh, it's so fascinating. And it's exactly the same. And that was years ago. So she did this research maybe in the 70s or 80s, way before, we started using Botox and dermal fillers and so forth. And it's interesting now that we're kind of doing everything we can to remove any signs of vulnerability in our face. And yet vulnerability is what actually leads to happiness. To be able to express and show vulnerability means that then we find out what's really important to us. And that's when we become happy.
I really feel like this is a much deeper thing that has to do in a lot of ways with the attack of this sort of more feminine, softer, intuitive side. Like, I think this idea of like shutting down emotions, it's a very stoic, it's a very male, stereotypically kind of male energy approach. And I feel like we're in a time where we've been taught as women, like, we can't have emotions. We just need to be tough. We have to be standalone. Like, we don't need community. Like, and all of these things are against what I feel like our nature is, which is to connect, to feel, to express, to find community. And so I think this is a much deeper, in many ways, just symptom of this bigger problem that we have right now as a society.
Absolutely. And that's a really, really good point, because I talk about that in my book, in terms of that as girls and as women, we're told now, you can have, if you want that girl, you go get that. If you want that, you get that. We can pretty much have what we want now. We can work towards, if we want to go into a traditionally male-dominated career, then hell, we are going to do that. And so as a result of that, yes, perhaps we have lost a little bit of that ability to show vulnerability that is innately feminine. And maybe we have become a little bit more masculine because of that. And we're using the tools around us, i.e., Botox and dermal fillers, to keep up with, keeping the race. I mean, I have patients on a daily basis who are having treatments done because they're competing against, women, and they're the words they use. They're competing against women who are younger than them in their workplace.
Yeah, I feel like it's really compounded for women in particular. I mean, this is definitely societal as a whole, but especially for women, where I think historically so much of women's value has been in your beauty, your ability to bear children, or to appear that you could have children, right? Because that was your sort of purpose, was either as a caregiver or potentially as a sexual partner slash parent slash potential parent. Yeah. And so I think so much of that has really carried over. And I used to live in China, and it's very interesting there, because it's so strong, this idea of like a woman's value is in her beauty. I think it's like that everywhere. But I had this conversation with a friend who lived there. She was from Hong Kong, so she spoke English fluently, and we were talking, and she said to me something that's really struck me. She said, "Old woman means worthless woman." She said that to me.
Wow.
And it was, and I could feel like we had gone to a spa together and we're getting like facial treatments, and I could literally feel the sort of visceral emotion and fear, because she was not as young as I was. She was a little older, and just, and I think she was very vocal, but at the same time, it was just like, oh my gosh, I think that's there for all of us, in some cultures more strongly than others. But if you reach that point where you're no longer like a young sexually attractive women by stereotype, that you can start to feel worthless if you take in all of that messaging.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
So,
and how can you not take that messaging in when,
well, of course, yeah,
it's there? I mean, you'd have to try and change everyone's idea, and that starts essentially with the media, doesn't it? And it's fascinating that youth is considered the most powerful, when, to be fair, you can't possibly know your worth in the world and know your strength until you're that little bit older. And that's when you come into your own. And I talk about princesses and queens, and how when you become a queen, and I don't know that there's a particular age, I just know that it happens. For me, it happened actually when I was about 28, 29. And I remember going, and it's almost like I went from being a princess to a queen, and I handed the baton of princess to the next generation of princesses. And I think that's what's so important as we get older, as women get older, is that we relish our role as queens. We sit there in our beautiful thrones with our crowns, and we sit there and we go, we're not competing. We know where we are. We know what's beautiful about us. We know what's strong about us. And we're there to guide and love and nurture our princesses so that they don't lose sight of what's important about them. And I do a call to action in my book, and I say, please, if you're a queen, please adopt a princess, adopt a few princesses, younger women around you, and help them. But I think as queens, we need to find out what's most beautiful about us, and that's with finding out our unique facial feature. And once we have that, and we've got that stoic strength in us, and I call it the lighthouse. So I have the lighthouse. I've coined the terms. So it's basically, you have your lighthouse, which is your unique facial feature, and then you have 3 anchors that are attached to your lighthouse. And because your lighthouse is strong and stoic within you, it's your unique facial feature and it never changes. That's what you can sit back in as a queen in your throne and be comfortable with throughout your life. Until you're a little old lady, my goodness, how, you see little old ladies now, and they've got that, whatever they've got, it might be that glint in their eye, that's something, that wicked little laugh, whatever it is. And that, I can promise you, has been there since the day that they were born.
I love that. Yeah, I'd like to touch on something you brought up here, because I think it's just really important for us to pay attention to this and to keep questioning it and kind of rewriting the narrative. Because
too right,
in our society, as particularly Western society, men are allowed to be considered very sexy, handsome, and attractive until 70, 80, and women are not. Like, it's no. And I think we need to change that and allow for that to be, but that also involves us embracing that in ourselves. Like, I think it starts with us first and demanding that and expecting that. And I'm really glad you brought up this sort of princess versus queen, because they both can be wonderful. But also, if you want to be a queen, don't keep interacting with people who want you to be a princess or are expecting that. I remember that was involved with this guy, and he called me a princess, and I said, no, I'm a queen. And I could just tell. Yes, I did. I said, I'm a queen. Girl. And I could tell he was just like, oh, and I was like, he doesn't want a queen. We're done. But that's okay.
Goosebumps. That is amazing. Good on you.
Thank you. But we need to stand in that sort of queendom and honor that, and not always try to be the princess.
Yes. We've had our time. And even if you get to whatever age you get to, and you're gripping onto those last bits of being a princess, you might sit there and go, but I didn't have my time as a princess. Let it go. It's okay. You don't have to have had what you consider the, you know, quintessential time as a princess, because guess what? You are going to have the best time as a queen.
Oh, I'd much rather be a queen. I mean, honestly,
Totally.
you don't have to be a princess. You can be 20 and be a queen, like whatever.
Totally.
It's
And it is. And it's it's a mental and soul mind shift.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically like, it's like you go, and it's interesting because, like I said, it happened to me at 28. And at 28, apparently that's when
Sort of solar return.
Yeah, that's is it our first solar return? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
And isn't that interesting? So that's when you kind of go, whoa, and it's like this kind of comforting embrace around you that makes you go.
Or it can be when your life falls apart, depending
True,
on how you're handling it.
That's right. But the good thing about your life falling apart, which is exactly what happened to me when I was 28, which is when I became the queen, was you have to have your life fall apart for you to rise out of those ashes as that beautiful phoenix.
If it falls apart, it's because something there needed to fall apart for something better to come along. So I completely agree with you. But definitely mine was a situation where it was like a little, like it started from when I was 20, and then right around when I was 30, it was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay,
here we go.
Happening.
Yeah. And it's so fascinating because I think I look around and obviously, like I said, I'm treating between 60 to 80 women a week. And I look at them and I see them and I go, and some of them are clutching on to being princesses. And I'm like, you're not a princess anymore. You've graduated, darling. You've graduated. You are so much more. But your role now is to nurture once you've honed in on what's most special and unique about you. And don't get me wrong, I teach all of my patients what their unique facial feature is. So they know that and they can walk along having that knowledge. But in my treatment room, I'm one little voice. But in my book and on paper, my voice is huge and it can reach every single girl and woman out there in the world to teach them the secrets of it. And it's so fascinating to see the differences that learning this stuff and actually having it palpably written on paper. So it's a concrete, actual step-by-step process, which is so quick and easy to do, that I'm having messages from all over the world. I had a message from a plastic surgeon in Hamburg a couple of weeks ago saying, thank you so much for your book. It's the most raw and honest thing I've read about female beauty. It's completely changed the way I treat my patients, and I recommend it to all female patients that I see now. I had a lady from America message me and heard me on another podcast a month or so ago, and she said, I've just bought all your copies on Amazon because I'm just going to be giving it. I've got one for myself and I'm giving it to everyone I possibly can to read, because it's such a message that we think our strength is in our beauty, but it's so far from the truth.
I agree. And we have to find that strength within. And by the way, I want to share, like in the aspect of, queen or, queendom, that I feel like you can be a queen and you can be beautiful and you can be sexy, but you have that wisdom.
And isn't that sexy?
So yes, it is. And in a way, there's this kind of pursuit of the infantile or the young, or that, as if that is the end. And I feel like that's a part of this kind of patriarchal setup of, because strong, intelligent women could be dangerous to the system. So we need to hold up this other, kind of disempowered aspect. Anyway, I think there's so much there, but I agree. And I think we need to give ourselves permission to find our beauty, to do treatments if we want to do treatments, or not do treatments if we don't want to do treatments. And we were chit-chatting before about a video that I know both of us love, and it's the Cynthia Nixon Be a Lady video. And if you haven't watched that, I highly, highly recommend that you watch it. It's basically, that video I think really illustrates the struggle and the double standards that we have as women, that we're supposed to impossibly be
absolutely, be this, be that, do this, do that.
In some cases, they're polar opposite things, like be sexy, be pure, be like, they're like all these things. They're like, you have to be all of these things. And
be strong, be weak.
Yeah.
It's kind of no wonder. And I'm not discounting young men at all, but I know women. I am one. I know them. I treat them. My book is for women. And we know what struggles we go through. We go through the fact that we're told, shh, no, girls don't do this, girls don't do that. And then we're told that we need to look a certain way. Oh, well, you wore a short skirt, so therefore you're this. And then, oh, why don't you wear a short skirt? You can be sexier then. And it's so confusing. And that video by Cynthia Nixon is the most incredible thing. And I desperately want to get my book to Cynthia Nixon. When I started writing it, I think I was telling you off air, she was one of the people that I wrote down. If I'm doing this, I'm doing it properly. I'm doing my book properly. And at the end of it, it has to get to Cynthia Nixon because of that beautiful video that she did.
Yeah. And if you're not familiar with Cynthia Nixon, she was the one that played Miranda, the lawyer in
Sex and the City.
And
yeah,
she's so great in that video, and I'm so glad she put that out there. I think it's so needed in the world. So it's just 2 minutes long. Go Google it, watch it. I
definitely.
think you'll be glad that you did. Well, let's put it out to the angels. Ask the universe
yes.
for help for
yes.
you connecting.
Yes.
Yeah, she's incredible. And I feel like she's such a great model because she's so true to herself, whatever she is. And
absolutely. And how strong and beautiful is she? She is the epitome of queendom. She's like and that's the thing, is that we can sit there and, gosh, it's so funny because here am I at 45 and I'm only just working out what my colors are. I've had a consultation with a color specialist to tell me what my colors are, what clothes look best on me. And it's like I'm finally settling into, and thanks to, obviously the process of writing and all the rest of it, finally settling into because, we change, our bodies change, our faces change. And I'm going, okay, so what can make me most beautiful now? And it's like, we have these all through the stages of our lives, we have these incredible opportunities to be beautiful. So why we harp back to when I was younger, no, you're here now. You're here. This is a gift, what you've got right here and now.
Yeah, I think it's so important for that. And again, that we should give ourselves permission to do or not do what we want. And I've had this interesting journey recently. So when I was young, I think I was around 12, maybe 13, but I was a gymnast, and I had an accident and I broke my nose. And we didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up, and my mom didn't believe that it was broken because I didn't get the black eyes. And I did an injury where most people, when they break their eyes, they go down and it breaks their eyes and they get the black eyes. But mine was compounded up, which could have been very dangerous. And thankfully I'm alive still, and it didn't, go into my brain. But by the time I went to the doctor, it basically set. And the doctor said, well, short of plastic surgery, there's really not much he could do. But he gave me some anesthesia, and he basically tried to push on my nose. So I have a hook now and this bump that I didn't have when I was born. And I grew up in Boulder, Colorado area, in Boulder County. And that's a very kind of natural, kind of mountain granola hippie kind of place. And I think I really felt like it's not okay for me to have plastic surgery. It was kind of like this judged thing. It's not okay, or you're shallow if you get plastic surgery. And now as I've gotten older, I'm like, you know what? That's kind of BS. You can do whatever you want. But also, I broke my nose. I broke it. And whatever you feel about that, we need to not judge ourselves and allow.
Absolutely.
So it's just been this very recent thing where I was like, oh my gosh, I think I didn't even allow myself to consider the possibility because some level I thought it was shallow or something.
Yes. And isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Yeah. And then the more I analyze, I'm like, that's so ridiculous. And I even I think they have a deviated septum. There's absolutely a reason.
So breathing,
surgery.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's so unconscious, a lot of these messages about what it's okay for us to do and not do.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is a lot of the time we think that the best thing to do is to change the way we look and that will bring us happiness. So that's when it's not the right thing to do. So like I said, you can have treatments done and they can be done so beautifully that they actually enhance what's most unique about your face. So it's important that you identify what your unique facial feature is and then work out the things that, you know, can be done to your face to help to enhance your unique facial feature, and that you don't go to practitioners and don't get sucked in by people who are going to say, oh, look, we've got a special on lips, therefore you need to have your lips done, when it's not actually the right thing for you. I mean, I'm meeting you face to face here for the first time. And the first thing that strikes me about your face is your beautiful, naturally full cheeks. Mm-hmm. And the way, and your eyes, your smiling eyes. So your eyes are so warm and connecting that if we were to remove your beautiful crow's feet completely, you'd actually lose that ability to have that warmth associated with your eyes. If I were to put mills in your lips, if I were to make your lips stand out more than your beautiful cheeks, your naturally full, beautiful cheeks that support your eyes, then I'd be looking at your lips and I'd be going, oh, there's some overfilled lips. I'd completely not be looking at what you naturally have as your unique facial feature.
Yeah, so I think that's happening a lot with lips in particular, where I understand people, you know, especially as you get older, you might lose some fullness and you don't want to compensate, but that's a very different thing than this huge, like, you know, big lip. And or if it doesn't match your face, there are some people that have very natural, gorgeous, beautiful lips, and that's what they are given. And then that makes sense. Like, I mean, Angelina Jolie is one, and there's many, you know, people of African-American descent that have these gorgeous, you know, lips, and that's wonderful. But yeah, sometimes I think it's also, even if you don't know, when you look at a person, you can tell something, it's like, it just doesn't seem right on their face.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't beat nature at its own game. You can't at all. Like, you can't ever, like, you know, people who think, oh, I want to have Angelina Jolie's lips, or I want to have Kim Kardashian's lips, or whatever it is. Certainly the natural one being Angelina Jolie. And you can't actually recreate that. That's what's most unique about her. I mean, look at it. That's what she's known for, her lips. And she is beautiful all over. She's got beautiful eyes, beautiful jawline, beautiful chin. Her cheeks are perfect in terms of supporting her eyes and so forth. But she's known for her lips, yeah? So you can't, if you're someone who's known for your eyes and your beautiful smile, your smiling eyes, if you go and get your lips done, that you no longer look like you, and you become less attractive. And if anything, you actually look like everyone else out there who's doing the same thing. It's like, you can't choose facial features like you're choosing ingredients for your smoothie. It's not the way it works.
So I know you work on the other side of this with you know, what people can do, but what do you recommend for people where they just feel like, if I don't have this look, if I don't change, then I can't be happy. Like, you know, and again, I don't think this is a successful strategy, because, like, if you're happy and you change your facial features, you're probably still going to be happy. But what do you recommend? What are the tools for people to try to get out of that cycle?
Absolutely. And that's the thing, is that we are using, like I said, we're using, you know, facial injections and plastic surgery and everything else that we're doing to our faces as Band-Aids over perhaps knife wounds. And so we do desperately need to discover what it is that is perhaps making us unhappy, or not necessarily what is making us unhappy, but what can make us happy. So in that, I talked about our lighthouse being our unique facial feature. My 3 anchors that I've developed and that are in my book are your peeps, number 1. Number 2 is tapping. And number 3 is mantra. So in the first instance, once you've discovered what your unique facial feature is, then you chat with your peeps. Now, I don't mean your external peeps, you know, that slang term of your mates and your friends, that kind of thing. No, your peeps are miniature yous that sit inside you in your solar plexus. and they're versions of you. And they're essentially, you know what, they're your gut intuition, and you chat with them and they communicate with you. And they are the ones who will tell you what your subconscious knows, but you don't, about your happiness and so forth. So once you've got a little bit of information from them, then you tap it out. And tapping is so important. And we know tapping, don't we? And so tapping is great because you can kind of, you know, think about your greatest fear or something that you're concerned about. So say, for example, your peeps, you know, you sit there and you're kind of, and you say, hey, what's going on with you guys? And I picture them as 100 mini yous. So my peeps are 100 mini Anitas, and they sit swooning around in my solar plexus. And I've done this since I was very young. And I told my husband about it 17 years ago. And I said, this is really bizarre. And I'd never told anyone. You might think I'm weird. Am I weird? I don't know. Is this weird? And he said, I love your peeps because I love that they're there to protect you and look after you all the time. And essentially that's what they're there to do. So you chat with them and you say, instead of getting stuck in a mindset in your brain and going, worry, worry, panic, panic, anxiety, whatever it is, you go deep in and you say, hey, how are you guys going? And, you know, you chat with those, you know, 99 of them might say, yeah, we're great, awesome, we're great, you know, and there might be one that sat there going in the corner, I'm not feeling too good. And you want to hone in on that one, and you want to say, hey, what's going on with you? Talk to me. And you just sit. You just sit and you just be conscious of that solar plexus, conscious of that, of your third eye, and sitting there and just saying, and breathing up and breathing down, and see what comes out. And whatever it is, and they might say, hey, I'm a bit worried about seeing this person this afternoon. I'm a bit worried about that. And you go, okay, that's interesting. And then you tap it out. Even though I'm worried about seeing Mary this afternoon, you know, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And then see the stuff that comes up from tapping. Even though I think that Mary will think I'm a fool. Oh, where did that come from? I deeply and completely love and accept myself. Even though this happened when I was 12, even, you know, whatever it is that comes up. And then with the tapping process, with EFT, emotional freedom technique, which is tapping, whatever it is, even though this, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And then the final step is your mantra. And your mantra is essentially so easy. You can do it all the time. I do it to send myself to sleep at night. And you breathe in, and on your in breath, you say, I love myself. And on your out breath, you say, yes. And it's as simple as that. I love myself. Yes. On the out breath. And this is all stuff because I hit rock bottom last year and I had a near-death experience. And because of that, this is what I developed. This practice is my practice that got me through a really, really bad, my lowest low last year.
This is really important. And there's so many tools. If you want to learn more about tapping, I have a blog post on my website, healingpowers.net, where I show the tapping points and kind of give a general, you know, so this is a really powerful tool. I also am a huge fan of emotion code. Have you ever tried emotion code?
Emotion code. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. It's very, very powerful, but there's so many tools. And I think try the different tools, use the ones that work for you.
Absolutely.
Ultimately do the work, and also know that it is a process. So whether with tapping or emotion code, like it's very common for me to find something that's a trigger point. So let's say we're talking about beauty, like right now, let's say you have a trigger of, if I'm not beautiful, I have no value, as an example.
Yeah.
And you might like work on that. And then you're like, oh my gosh, there's this related one. If I'm not young, if I'm older, I'm not, you know, so it's sometimes it's like these finding those issues, working on them. And then there might be like a related issue that's still kind of tying in with that theme. And it's just like these layers of the onion. You got to keep working on it. But if you do the work consistently, it's amazing how freeing, like, I feel like there's so many things that I didn't even realize were really holding me down in terms of my mindset and my just enjoyment of life. And as I've cleared these things, like things just roll off.
Absolutely.
Like here we are in the
Absolutely.
pandemic, and because I've done
Yeah.
so much work, I still have moments where I'm like, oh, crazy election, whatever. But overall, I'm so much happier than I
Yeah.
was in what
Yeah.
could be described as one of the worst times,
Mm.
collectively speaking, for
Absolutely.
us in a while.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, if we, if we sit with stuff and it just sits there, and that's what happened, I talk a lot about water. Water is so important. Water moves, water goes up and down, in terms of whether it be a still body of water or a wave, and all water moves. Even the still water is moving underneath. And that's what our breath is. Our breath is up and down. Our life is, we need to enjoy the downs, when that wave is down, as opposed to when we're at the crest of the wave. We need to enjoy both of those, because those moments are moments of blissful contemplation and relaxation. They're not moments of self-loathing. They're moments of, well, isn't this interesting? I've very much learned to, and with the help of, people who've helped me through what happened to me last year, and I do go over in my book, In Beautiful Unique Faces, exactly what happened to me last year, because it's only fair that I be completely transparent and open in my story when I'm talking about this working. And I've had women all throughout my career who've been transparent and open with me. So it'd only be fair that I be transparent and open about my journey as well. And so I became, if we talk about water, I became a block of ice last year, because I was trying to make everything perfect for everyone else, because everyone else was trying to seek this ideal perfect face. And so because of their quest for perfection and my quest, I'm a people pleaser, my quest to make sure that everything was perfect for everyone, I nearly died. I was seconds away from dying. So you've got to have your inciting incidents in your life to make you turn around. It's like every story you watch a film, the lead character has an inciting incident that makes them change the course of their journey. And that's us as human beings. We have these incredibly insightful, inciting incidents. And we're here to learn. Our life is, we're not going to hit goals. We're not going to feel amazing every single day. My goodness, how boring.
Oh gosh, yes. And we all have those dark nights of the soul. I mean, I think it's just a part of humanity. But here's the thing. When you get past that, what comes after the darkness? It comes the light,
Comes
So
the
if we can
light.
just remember that and keep going. I feel like there's a lot of people that are having their dark night of the soul right now. For me, it was during the recession.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yeah, hold on to that light and know that it will get better. Well, thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability. And I have one more question for our listeners, which is, wherever you are, because I think if they can connect with you where you are in Queensland, Australia, that's amazing.
Yes.
But wherever they
Yes.
are, how can they find someone that can approach beauty and help them feel their most beautiful without that approach of what you talked about? Like, here, we have a special on lips, or we have a special on cheek filler, or whatever,
Yeah.
Find someone that's really going to have that picture in mind for you and do that quality work.
Gee whiz, that's such an awesome question. And that's a real tricky one, because I'm afraid there's not a huge amount of us out there. But in saying that, in writing my book, I'm giving power to the people. So I've kind of put my hand up enough times over the years to fellow practitioners, and I've said, hey, guys, we've got it wrong. You've got it wrong. Where's your ethics? Where's your morals? Can you not see what's happening? A little bit like the show Social Dilemma. It's like, can you not see what you're doing?
Yeah.
What you're
we need to have
complicit? Exactly. We're all
Mm-hmm.
complicit in this social crisis that we're forcing girls and women to be in. but unfortunately, a lot of the time, my little voice would fall on deaf ears. So hence why I wrote my book, because if anything, I'm giving power to the people, power to the patient, power to the client, power to the consumer. So even though, no, I can't give you a list of where these people who just care about your unique facial feature and enhancing your beautiful, unique face, what I can do is say that I am creating an online membership, which will give you kind of more access, give each member access to what I discuss in my book, but in a much deeper level. And probably the best thing to do is to remain connected with me via Instagram that way. And my Instagram handle is Anita East _.
Okay.
And all the information will be coming out on there, but just question your practitioner. Talk to your peeps while they're in there. If they're saying, hey, you need your lips done, your lips would be great. Let's do your lips, let's do your cheeks, let's do your chin, without saying, oh, this is what's most beautiful about your face. Chat to your peeps, takes 2 seconds. And if your gut says no, use your legs to do the talking, and you walk right out that door.
Great. No, this is really helpful. And I'm a strong believer in, obviously, in intuition, and just see how you feel and really sit in with, the intention of that practitioner. And also, reviews are helpful, looking at reviews online.
Reviews
it's not everything. That's interesting.
No, because essentially anyone can, in Australia, reviews are illegal for a medical procedure.
That's interesting. So here they're allowed for a lot of things. So for these kinds of procedures, injections, especially things like that, it's allowed. So if you're in a place where you can look at that or ask people around, I think that word of mouth thing is helpful. I've had some fascinating experiences, though. I do think that when you change your energy, your face changes. I mean, I've seen this, and I had this woman reach out to me, and she requested my plastic surgery. Like, she was like, I love the name of your plastic surgeon. I said, I haven't had any plastic surgery. I don't have one. And she insisted. She basically was like, but you must have. And I was like, no, I haven't. So that's another thing that I think we as we shift, like, literally our faces will change, and they change with health, and they change with our energy. And
absolutely.
If also, I think it can go the other way, like we talked about, like if you feel like you're having something, and your eyes are drooping or whatever, and it makes you feel heavy or serious or tired, you can psychologically feel better by changing this. So I feel like we need to not judge ourselves for that. And if that's what makes us feel better, to give ourselves permission, but at the same time, not expect others to do that or judge others for doing it. Even when people have what we described as the pretty ugly faces, I still think we should be kind to them, because they're just trying to, we're all just trying to feel good. And
absolutely. And if anything, those of us, and the beautiful thing is about cosmetic injectables is that they're temporary.
They go away. The results go away.
So there are many of us who've gone down the route of pretty ugly faces, who've gone down the route of having too much done. And then we've gone, oh, actually, that didn't sit well. That didn't work. That didn't provide me the happiness that I wanted. And so what am I going to do? I'm going to let it wear off, or I'm going to get it dissolved, and I'm going to then find out the secret to my beautiful, unique face. So if anything, we should be, those women who have too much done, they're getting advice from someone who's telling them that they need to have this stuff done, or they're getting advice, thinking that this will make them happy. Well, you know what? They need the extra love and attention.
Yeah, this has been so helpful. And I think, like I said, such a relevant topic. So I really wish you the best of luck with your book.
Thank you.
And it's exciting. So if people want to learn more, connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
So probably, my Instagram handle, which is Anita East _, and that's all lowercase. So Anita, ANITA EAST _. My website is anitaeast.com.au. And you can buy the book in America. You can buy it from Amazon, and you can buy it from Barnes & Noble. It's available as an ebook as well, and I'll be recording the audiobook in the new year. So
Oh, good. Exciting. Yeah,
yes.
I'm going to be working on some audiobooks myself. It's really worthwhile. It's great, but it's also a lot of work. So many blessings to you
I
as
know,
you go
I'm
through
sitting
that
here going,
process.
I gotta read all this.
It's funny. I've done a lot of voiceover work as an actress, and then I was like, okay, audiobook, no big deal. And then I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much. It's a
Huge,
lot.
hey?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. But
yes.
also people love the audio, so it's really
Yeah,
helpful.
absolutely,
Well,
absolutely.
thank you so much, Anita. It's really been such a pleasure to
Thank
talk with you
you.
today.
Thank
And,
you, Laura.
and thank you everyone for listening. If you'd like more information about me, you can find it on laurapowers.net or healingpowers.net on the psychic side. You can find me at Twitter at that Laura Powers, Instagram at Laura Powers 44, and on Facebook.